Today on 10 Minute IT Jams, we have Charlie Ferguson, who is the General Manager of Asia-Pacific for Globalization Partners. Globalization Partners is a company which leverages technology that lets its customers onboard staff in a matter of hours rather than weeks or sometimes months, and oversees tax, insurance, and compliance for over 180 companies across the world. Welcome to the Jam, Charlie.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for having me, mate.
No worries. So to start off, as a company, you work a lot with Employer of Record technology, or EOR. So firstly, could you give me a quick overview of the company, and then could you explain the concept of EOR?
Absolutely. The company itself was founded in 2012 in the United States. It's headquartered, kind of a dual headquarters operation between San Diego, California, and Boston, Massachusetts. And we, as you pointed out in the preamble, we're in 187 countries around the world today, offering this service. And the genesis of the idea behind the service was catalyzed by the founder, Nicole Sahin. Earlier in her career, spent a lot of time helping companies to expand their business in the traditional way, which is by going into a country and setting up a legal structure, putting the entity in place, and then going through the process of establishing payroll and all the various things you need to do in order to hire your local talent and get scaled up. It's a way to do it, but it's not the most expeditious way, and it's not the most painless way to get things done. So her idea was, how wonderful would it be if I were able to go around the world and set up a structure that any company that wanted to come into a particular country could leverage in order to hire and onboard their staff, and then make decisions around how they want to ultimately expand or scale into that particular country. So in its simplest form, the EOR model is as follows. The company finds the talent, the candidate, and we kind of take care of the rest of the process. So we onboard the candidate. We use our own entities and technology and structures around the world to get them onboarded in a few hours, in most cases. As part of that, obviously, we take on the responsibility. So ensuring that payroll is accurate and compliant and timely. The tax filings are done legally and compliantly based on local jurisdiction. And we follow all the various local and specific laws that are required to remain compliant. And what this allows is essentially, through that process, you now have a local presence and your employees work for you, and we manage kind of all of the infrastructure behind the scenes to ensure that that relationship is successful. So that's in a nutshell what EOR does. There are a lot of nuances and depths of capability in that, but that's at a high level what the model is.
Right, yeah. And in the APAC region, which you oversee, what opportunities are you seeing for EOR in this market specifically?
So there are so many areas that are growing right now, not least of which sort of exacerbated by some of the trade contests between superpowers, United States and China being chief among them, but also by virtue of the fact that during this COVID pandemic, so many shifts in the perspective of how to deliver business value have occurred. So let me be more specific. As companies are shifting their supply chains, as an example, and not necessarily removing them from certain countries, but at least putting in place contingency plans and kind of taking on new countries to build some resilience into their supply chain capabilities. Following that, companies are looking to bring on board new talent. Now, with the COVID-19 challenges that a lot of countries are encountering, travel into those countries becomes exceedingly difficult. So in order to explore that market opportunity and establish a new base from a supply chain perspective, you need to have somebody on the ground to do the work for you. So we provide this vehicle that allows for a particular company to do some exploring, explore a market in a very low risk manner, hire an individual or a few people, build a small team, and go out and really start to build the links in that supply chain in the local market. And at such time as that company feels it's appropriate to potentially go to the next stage and really establish their own presence, et cetera, then we help them to transition those professionals off of our vehicle and put them onto their infrastructure. So that's kind of one point of view. Another really interesting one is kind of flipping the lens around. I talk to a lot of government agencies around this region who are particularly keen to elevate their national talent pool capability. And by that I mean to say, there are companies all around the world right now who are eager to tap into the global talent pool. And that's been sort of galvanized by the fact that, I mean, just as you and I are sitting here today, everybody's working from home, right? Everything has gone ostensibly remote. So therefore, other than time zone considerations, the whole world becomes your recruitment pool. The challenge becomes if I, for example, wanted to hire someone that I discovered through social channels and vetted, et cetera, and that person was in New Zealand as an example. If I don't have a presence there, it's extremely difficult for me to compliantly hire and onboard that particular talented professional without structure in place. So they leverage the EOR model to acquire and retain that talent. And at such time as they make a decision to maybe go into that market, or maybe they never decide to go to that market, they just wanted that particular talented individual as part of their team. So this model facilitates that. The technology that underpins all of this is really exciting because it ostensibly creates, I call it a command center for remote work management. And what it does essentially is it allows you to see where all of your people are that are within our structures on our platform. It allows you to administer various aspects of payroll. It allows for the professionals themselves to get clarity around areas of payroll that they have interest in understanding, and or perhaps more germane is to do expense claims and things of this nature, like day-to-day sort of interaction. It allows them to make requests for paid time off. And for the ultimate employer, for the company, it allows for them also to kind of look across a map of the world and say, you know what, we are going to explore our next market. And they click on the map, pull down some information related to what it means to sort of expand into that particular country. And maybe they even go so far as to say, we want to place an individual there. They kind of go through an automated process. They're provided with a proposal. It can be invoiced automatically, and we can automatically onboard the individual. So it's a very seamless kind of experience. It's very consumer grade. And it's in line with not only what technology should be providing from an ease of use perspective, but it's also aligned very closely to the world that we're operating in now, which is basically everything's got to be kind of seamless and automated in order for it to work in a remote construct.
Right, yeah. And you did kind of mention this a little bit, but could you just elaborate on what kind of companies are using the Globalization Partners services in this region?
Absolutely. So what we see when we look across, let's say the top, 3 or 4 areas from a vertical perspective, they're what you would probably expect, right? They're technology firms in the first instance. That's the bulk of the types of firms that seek our types of services, because they're typically the ones who are, exploring new markets very rapidly and need a very quick time to value. And the talent they're trying to attract are typically the types of talent that you need to really be agile to put into place very quickly. So tech firms, by and large, are the bulk of who we address. Having said that, we address the needs for a massive swath of different type of company, manufacturing, consumer goods, online services, a whole swath. I would also call out that the size of the company is not necessarily the driver. It's not a proxy for what we serve. Companies that are on the smaller end of the spectrum, small, medium enterprises, for lack of a better term, are very common. We deal with those types of companies all the time. Startups at series, B, C, et cetera, who are looking to, test theories on different markets. Super well-established companies who are exploring new markets for the first time. And I think another interesting model that has come to the fore much more prevalently lately has been venture capital and private equity funds who are going out and making acquisitions. And as they start to unpack the legal structures of the firms that they've acquired in their portfolio, they want to rationalize some of those structures that are inherently in place in those businesses and make it a little bit more streamlined, a little more fit for purpose. But you don't want to lose the talent. So as they unwind certain structures in different countries, they take the talent that was employed by those structures and put it on our vehicle. And the relationship remains the same. Nothing really changes for that professional. And then when the fund decides what they want to do ultimately with the way that it's structured to go to market, either for a trade sale or for an IPO or whatever, then they can make decisions around what they want to do with that talent ultimately. But the important part of that is that the experience of the employee is never really impacted, right? It's all done behind the scenes. So they continue to be well looked after by Globalization Partners. So that's kind of what we see. It's small, medium enterprises in tech would be the driver, but certainly it runs the gamut all across the region, inbound and outbound.
Right, yeah. And finally, what's the best way for a prospective partner or customer to get in touch with you?
You know what, I think we have a million different ways to reach out to us, as is always the case in these modern times. Going to our website and dropping down on the list of countries that you're particularly interested in. We have a feature on our website called Globalpedia. And Globalpedia is a free resource for any company that wants to go online and kind of explore the various aspects of expanding into a particular market. Once you've kind of done that and gotten a sense of what's out there, there are ways and means by which to contact us there. The website is www.globalization-partners.com. Please note, globalization is spelled the American way with a Z as opposed to with an S. And with that, you'll be able to find anything you require to get a hold of us.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, that concludes today's 10-minute IT Jam with Globalization Partners General Manager for Asia-Pacific, Charlie Ferguson. Thank you so much for joining me today, Charlie.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.